The story revolves around a chilling, real-life-inspired incident of racial prejudice in a high-end suburban restaurant. A black family, simply looking to celebrate a child's birthday, is denied service under the guise of policies that suddenly don't apply to other patrons who arrive shortly after. What seems like an everyday act of quiet discrimination unravels into something much larger when the CEO of the entire franchise unexpectedly appears on site, and he has a personal stake in the matter. At its core, this story is about reckoning and accountability. It's a confrontation between systemic bias and the power of individual authority when wielded justly. It's not about preaching. It's about exposing how a moment of cruelty can collide with a moment of unexpected justice, and how a single decision can echo far beyond one night. Justice through confrontation. It's about exposing the masks people wear when they believe no one powerful is watching. A clash of prejudice versus power, and what happens when power has a conscience. Social drama with elements of legal suspense. There is no murder or crime thriller here, but tension simmers in policy loopholes, unspoken bias, and the high-stakes world of corporate image versus community responsibility. The suspense lies in what the CEO will do and what it will cost him. Righteous outrage leading to cathartic justice. Readers should feel anger, then hope, then satisfaction, but not without discomfort. The story should make people question how many similar moments they've witnessed or overlooked. Written in a cinematic, emotionally vivid tone, with sharp scene transitions and inner monologues from key characters, especially the protagonist, a staff member caught between obedience and conscience, and the CEO himself. Table 7 is full. Tell them they'll have to wait. Jesse didn't even look up from the hostess stand as he spoke. His voice was cool, detached, like someone used to saying no and never being questioned. But Kira noticed. She had been watching from the corner of the dining floor, polishing glasses that didn't need polishing just to escape the silence in the break room. The family standing near the entrance looked nervous but hopeful, a young couple, 2 kids, maybe 6 or 7 years old, all dressed nicely. The little girl wore a paper crown. It looked handmade. Kira saw the way the mother leaned down and whispered, "It's okay, baby, we'll eat somewhere else." The child didn't answer. She just took off the crown, folded it in half, and put it in her coat pocket. They turned to leave, and that's when it happened. The doors opened again. A white couple, casually dressed, jeans, jackets, nothing fancy. They didn't wait. They walked right in like they belonged, like they'd been here 1,000 times. Jesse smiled when he saw them. "Ah, you made it. Table 7's all yours." Kira stopped breathing. She wasn't the only one who noticed. A server in the corner froze mid-step. The bartender looked down quickly, like eye contact might make him complicit. The air turned heavy, like everyone had just realized they were part of something ugly, but no one wanted to be the one to say it out loud. The black family hadn't made it to the parking lot yet. The father turned back. He wasn't angry, not on the outside, just tired, as if he'd seen this play out 100 times before, in different forms, in different places. He walked back in, calm, collected. "I thought you said table 7 was taken," he asked Jesse. Jesse hesitated. "Sir, we had a reservation." "No." The man interrupted, glancing at the white couple, now settling in. "You said it was full." The silence that followed was excruciating. The manager stepped out from the back, already mouthing apologies, ready to smooth things over with free drinks or a discount voucher. But the damage was done. The family walked out, this time without a word. The little girl never looked up again. And just as the tension began to settle, the front doors opened again. Black suit, clean-shaven, confident stride. The man walked in like he owned the place, because he did. The CEO? No one expected him there. Not tonight. Not ever. He didn't speak to anyone at first. Just scanned the room. Saw the white couple at table 7. Saw Jesse, frozen. Saw Kira, staring at the door like she'd just seen a ghost. He walked to the hostess stand and placed his hand gently on the podium. "Was there a family here a few minutes ago?" Jesse stammered. Why yes, sir." "Why did they leave?" No one answered. The CEO turned to Kira. "Did they say anything?" She nodded slowly. "They said they'd find somewhere else." He exhaled once, sharply. Then he looked at Jesse. "I want the security footage. And your written explanation. Now." He wasn't shouting. His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that made your blood go cold. Everyone stopped pretending they weren't watching. The couple at table 7 looked around, confused. The tension returned, but this time, it wasn't embarrassment. It was fear. A real fear. Because this wasn't just about a table anymore. It was about truth. About who you are when no one powerful is watching. And what happens when someone finally does. Kira Morgan had worked at Delgrave's Bistro for 16 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. Not that she was counting, but she was. Every time she folded a napkin into a perfect triangle, every time she balanced a tray of overpriced cocktails, every time she smiled at customers who barely saw her, she kept track. Because this wasn't the end goal. It wasn't even the midpoint. Kira was 29, journalism graduate, once editor-in-chief of her college paper. She'd interned with a local news station, shadowed real reporters, and even produced a mini-documentary on food deserts in urban neighborhoods. But internships didn't pay rent, and idealism couldn't afford health insurance. So here she was, in a black apron and non-slip shoes, quietly studying people between orders. And the truth was, she saw everything. She saw how Jesse, the assistant floor manager, used policy as a mask, always flexible for the right guests, always firm for the wrong ones. She saw the owners do walkthroughs once a month, pretending to shake hands while secretly inspecting surfaces for dust. She saw which tables tipped, which ones asked for the manager when their steak was medium instead of medium rare, and which ones called her sweetheart, like it was her name. But she also saw patterns, stories, moments that would make headlines if only someone bothered to report them. That night, the night of the birthday crown and table 7, she'd felt something shift, not just in the restaurant, in herself. She'd felt it when the little girl pocketed the crown, when the father swallowed his pride and asked a question he already knew the answer to, when Jesse lied, again, and most of all, when he walked in. Victor Hammond, CEO of Delgrave's Hospitality Group. She knew who he was before he even opened his mouth. Every employee did. They'd seen his picture in the training manuals, watched his holiday video messages about excellence and inclusion, and listened to managers parrot his speeches during staff meetings. But no one ever expected to see him. Kira had read rumors that he visited locations secretly, like a ghost investor, that he would fire people on the spot if they embarrassed the brand, that he once shut down an entire hotel overnight because it failed a surprise inspection. Still, nothing could have prepared her for the way he looked that night. Not angry, not even surprised, just disappointed. Like this wasn't the first time. After he asked about the family, she'd told the truth. Not because she wanted to stir drama, not because she wanted Jesse punished, but because for once, someone asked and meant it. She didn't think of herself as brave. Not really. She didn't speak up at rallies, didn't post angry rants online. She just observed, wrote in her notebook after shifts. But deep down, under the quiet compliance, there was something else. Guilt. She remembered last year, during the holidays. A black teenager came in alone, asked to use the restroom. Jesse told him customers only. Kira had said nothing. She'd been wiping down menus 2 feet away. Later, she found out the boy had been waiting for his mother next door at the pharmacy. She never forgot the look on his face. Like he wasn't surprised. Like he never expected kindness in the first place. Since then, she'd started writing again. Not for anyone else, just herself. She had pages filled with incidents, quotes, faces. Things she told herself she'd expose someday. When she had time. When it felt safe. When someone listened. Now someone had. Victor Hammond. After he walked past the hostess stand, he didn't leave. He went into the manager's office, closed the door, and stayed there for 40 minutes. No one knew what was said. Jesse came out pale. The general manager followed, red in the face, muttering something about corporate protocols. And Kira? She returned to her side station, hands trembling as she reached for another glass. Because for the first time, she wasn't just a server. She was a witness. And maybe, just maybe, she was going to do something about it. 2 days after the Table 7 incident, Kira was called into the office. Not by her shift lead. Not by the general manager. But by Victor Hammond himself. The request came through email, short, formal, and strangely calm. Kira Morgan, please report to the downtown headquarters office, 9 a.m. Thursday. Directly to the executive floor. V. Hammond. No explanation. No subject line. Just that. She stared at the screen for a long time, then reread it 3 more times. She thought about not going. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she was being fired. though no one else from that night had been let go, at least not publicly. But something inside her said go. Not curiosity, not even hope. It was duty, and something she hadn't felt in a long time, relevance. Thursday came, and Kira took the early train downtown, dressed in her most professional outfit, a navy blue blazer that still had the dry cleaner tag attached. She arrived 15 minutes early, heart hammering as she stepped into the gleaming lobby. The headquarters was nothing like the restaurant. All white walls, minimalist design, soft music playing like no one actually worked there. She told the front desk her name, and the receptionist smiled like she'd been expected all week. Elevator. 12th floor. Executive wing. She stepped into a hallway so silent she could hear the faint click of her own heartbeat. When she reached the glass door marked Victor Hammond, CEO, she raised her hand to knock, but it opened before she touched it. Kira, he said, calm and direct, like he was greeting a colleague, not a server. She walked in slowly, her throat dry. The office was spotless. Massive windows overlooked the city skyline. Behind his desk sat Victor. Same calm eyes, same clipped tone. He gestured to the chair across from him. Thank you for coming. I won't waste your time. Kira nodded, unsure whether she was allowed to speak. Victor tapped his desk twice. A monitor flickered on. Security footage played in silence. Table 7. Jesse. The white couple walking in. The family leaving. I've reviewed this footage a dozen times, he said. And I've heard 4 different versions of what happened. He paused the video. Looked at her. Yours was the only one that matched what I saw. Kira felt her stomach twist. Am I in trouble? He almost smiled. No. Quite the opposite. I'm offering you something. She blinked. I don't follow. He leaned forward. Every company has its blind spots. People we promote who don't deserve it. Managers who forget that every decision reflects the brand. And customers, the kind that we enable by staying silent. He pulled open a drawer and placed a black folder on the desk. Her name was printed on the cover. I've read your file. I know your background. Journalism, activism, the documentary. I even saw your college editorial on racial double standards in hiring practices. Kira's breath caught. That article was 5 years old. He slid the folder toward her. I'm assembling an internal accountability task force. I want someone who sees the cracks. Not from the top, from the floor. Someone with first-hand experience who isn't afraid to document the truth. Kira stared at him. You want me to what? Spy on people? No, he said flatly. I want you to expose the truth, starting with your own location. A chill ran down her spine. You want me to report on Jesse? I want you to tell me everything, Victor said. Not just about Jesse. About who's complicit, who's enabling patterns, where the rot is. And if you do it well, we'll go public. She swallowed. Public? Victor nodded. With a formal statement. A policy shift. Terminations, if necessary. And we won't bury it under PR spin. Kira felt her heart pounding in her ears. You're serious. I've never been more serious, he said. This company needs a reckoning. But it has to come from inside. She stared down at the folder. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a preliminary contract. Non-disclosure. Safety clause. Internal protections. A stipend. Travel expenses. This is big, she said quietly. Victor leaned back in his chair. So is the problem. Silence filled the office. For the first time in years, Kira felt the weight of her education, her voice, her principles, all being called forward. This wasn't a viral tweet. This wasn't whispering about injustice in the break room. This was action. Dangerous, real, and maybe redemptive. As she looked up, if I do this, I want full creative control over the documentation. You'll have it. I want final say on what gets submitted. Victor raised an eyebrow, but nodded. Approved. And if you back down, if this turns into PR fluff, I walk. And I talk. A pause. Then a smile. Now you're thinking like a journalist. He extended his hand. She took it. And just like that, her life changed. Kira sat on the train ride back to her apartment with the black folder still clenched in her hands. The city rolled past outside, a blur of concrete, graffiti, and glass. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. Messages from coworkers, probably asking why she wasn't at the pre-shift meeting. She ignored them. In her mind, the conversation with Victor played on loop. Tell me everything. Start with your own location. She had. She'd made a mental list right there in his office, detailing the subtle discriminations, The under-the-table policy changes, the favoritism, the way certain guests were offered free desserts and others were questioned about their reservations. But now she had to do more than notice. She had to act. That night, instead of clocking in, Kira emailed the general manager and requested a temporary leave, citing a special project under direct instruction from executive leadership. The reply came within minutes, a polite, confused approved. By morning, she had started her first file. She called it Unseen. She started with Jesse. Not just the Table 7 incident. She already had notes on that, but a pattern. Old stories from other staff. Small details. How he always assigned the outside patio to new black servers in winter. How he accidentally skipped over certain applications during hiring season. How he asked a Latina hostess to shorten her name on the schedule because guests won't pronounce it anyway. She began interviewing former coworkers, carefully, casually, off-site. One, Sasha, a former bartender, agreed to meet her at a coffee shop uptown. He was never outright racist, Sasha said, but it was always implied. Like, if a black guy in a hoodie came in, Jesse would stand near the register until he left. One time a couple complained their server had an accent. Guess who got reassigned mid-shift? Kira documented everything. Names. Dates. She matched the accounts with shift schedules and video timestamps. The more she gathered, the more it spiraled. This wasn't just about Jesse. It was the entire culture. An unspoken, filtered hierarchy of who mattered more. Not written in the employee handbook, but lived in the daily grind. 3 days in, she returned to the restaurant unannounced. Not to spy, to observe. She stood across the street, pretending to wait for a rideshare, watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Jesse was at the host's stand, smiling for a white couple with designer coats. 5 minutes later, a black family arrived. She saw his smile fade, saw him pretend to check something on the computer, then shake his head. No availability. She could almost hear him say. Kira's blood boiled. She walked in. The host's stand went quiet. Jesse's face tightened when he saw her. Kira, you're not scheduled. I'm not here to work, she said flatly. Just grabbing something I left in the locker room. He nodded, clearly unconvinced. She passed the kitchen, grabbed an unused apron from her locker just for show, and exited through the back. Once outside, she turned on her phone's voice recorder and muttered. Same pattern. 7:14 p.m. White couple seated within 2 minutes. Black family turned away. Jesse claimed full booking despite 5 empty tables visible. She uploaded the file to a secure cloud Victor had set up. The folder now had 23 files, all labeled, timestamped, and verified. She was building a case stronger than any PR statement. This wasn't a story. It was an indictment. And then came the first threat. An anonymous text, blocked number. Stop poking around. People talk. She stared at it. Her hands went cold. 10 minutes later, another came. You're not the first who tried. You won't win. Kira didn't respond. Instead, she forwarded the messages to Victor's encrypted line. His reply was instant. Keep going. We'll handle the rest. But Kira knew what that meant. She was getting close. Too close. The following day, she drove 2 hours to another Delgrave location. The one where Sasha had said a manager was quietly transferred after multiple discrimination complaints. She posed as a customer, dressed up, brought a fake partner, and filmed the entire dining experience with a concealed camera pen. The results were textbook. White guests greeted with "Welcome back." Black guests seated near the kitchen. A biracial couple at the next table asked about a birthday package. Were told it was members only, despite online ads saying otherwise. She uploaded the footage. She didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, but because her adrenaline wouldn't let her. She was finally doing the thing she'd trained for. The thing she thought she gave up when she took the apron job. She was reporting, investigating, exposing. But with every truth she uncovered, the risks grew. Late one evening, she found her apartment door slightly ajar. Nothing stolen, nothing broken, but her notes were scattered on her desk. Her computer had been moved. A post-it note now rested in the center of her keyboard. Careful what you dig up. She called Victor immediately. Do you have security? He asked. No, she admitted. I didn't think I needed any. You do now? I'm sending someone. And I'm upgrading your laptop. From now on, nothing goes on local storage. Only encrypted uploads. That night, a private security detail arrived at her door. 2 men in plain clothes. Quiet, Professional, anonymous. They parked across the street in a silver sedan. She didn't ask their names. She didn't need to. Kira looked at the folder growing thicker by the day and knew this wasn't just a restaurant problem. It was corporate. It was systematic. And she was the one peeling it open. It was 2 weeks in when Kira received the internal document that changed everything. She wasn't supposed to see it. Not yet. But one of the newer executive assistants, someone young, barely out of college, idealistic and tired of watching everything be swept under the rug, had slipped it to her during a scheduled check-in at HQ. The file was simply titled, Operation Table 7, Contingency Drafts. She didn't even wait to get home. Sitting in her car, laptop balanced on her knees, she opened the encrypted PDF. What she saw made her skin crawl. There were memos, drafted days before her meeting with Victor, outlining multiple potential brand repositioning strategies in the event of inevitable media exposure surrounding the Table 7 incident. One section read, if the narrative cannot be redirected through internal terminations or NDAs, consider leveraging activist optics. Elevate a frontline employee to internal watchdog status, ideally one with a personal connection to the incident or relevant demographic background. Kira froze. She read it again. Then again. They didn't just expect blowback. They had planned for it. Down to using someone like her. Like a pawn. There were 3 versions of the plan. In all 3, one line stayed consistent. Control the story before the story controls us. She kept scrolling, her fingers shaking. In a later section, her name appeared. Candidate A, Kira Morgan. Black female. Prior background in journalism and advocacy. High potential for authentic narrative. Previously employed at location of incident. Recommend approach via CEO for maximum authenticity. Offer creative control as incentive. Monitor uploads. Monitor. They'd been watching everything she sent. Every recorded clip. Every interview. Every file. The encrypted cloud wasn't secure for her, it was for them. She stared at the screen. Her entire chest went numb. Had Victor played her? Was all of this just a performance? She thought back to the day he extended the folder, how clean the offer had been, how fast the contract was ready. He hadn't stumbled into her story. He'd cast her. In that moment, Kira's mission fractured. She slammed the laptop shut and sat in silence, her heart pounding. The warmth she'd felt, the belief she was finally doing something meaningful, began to evaporate. But then the fire returned. If they thought she'd play along, they underestimated her. Now she wasn't just documenting. She was investigating them. She went home and backed up all her files to a personal offline hard drive. Something old school, something they couldn't access remotely. She started a second archive on a separate laptop with 0 internet access. Every recording now had a duplicate, marked and time-stamped, hidden in a locked box under a loose floorboard beneath her bed. She also began recording herself, not just narrating events, but processing them, emotionally, intellectually, morally. These weren't files for the company. These were files for the truth, in case anything ever happened to her. 2 days later, she tested Victor. She called and told him she had a difficult recording involving a regional manager denying service to an interracial couple. His response? Let's review it together before you upload. Some details might be misinterpreted. Her stomach sank. He was no longer pretending. She played along. Of course, she said sweetly. I'll hold it for now. That night, she didn't sleep. She just stared at her walls, playing back every moment of their conversations. The calmness, the contract, the reassurance. All of it, manipulation. But what haunted her more than Victor's betrayal was a single question that wouldn't leave her mind. If Victor was orchestrating this, then what happened to the family at Table 7 wasn't just mishandled. It was strategic. She had to know. She rewatched the security footage from that night, the original file she secretly saved before submitting her report. Something caught her attention she hadn't noticed before. Just after the Black family left, Jesse didn't return to the host's stand. He went to the kitchen, then disappeared into the back hallway. She called an old co-worker from that night, Lena, a quiet prep cook who usually kept to herself. Do you remember where Jesse went after the incident? Lena hesitated. Not exactly. I wasn't really watching. Did anyone else go with him? Pause. Then, actually, yeah, that woman. Corporate rep. She was there for a surprise audit or something. Kira's breath caught. What woman? She said her name was Monica. Blonde, tight blazer, tablet in hand. I thought it was weird she was there that night, though. No one told us she was coming. Kira had never heard of Monica. She dug through the contract Victor gave her. In the appendix, barely visible, was a clause stating all internal data submitted would be reviewed by Compliance Executive Liaison M. K. Dawson. Monica K. Dawson, another player in the game. Kira now knew what she had to do. She went to the next company location. This time, she didn't pose as a customer. She posed as press, fake badge, old connections, made-up publication. She asked to speak with Monica Dawson. The hostess blinked. Oh, she's not usually here. But she's here sometimes? Yeah, the hostess whispered. She was here last week. Had a meeting with the GM. They didn't use the office, though. They used the security room. The security room. Not HR. Not the main floor. Why would a corporate liaison use the surveillance hub? Kira left without asking more. She didn't want to spook anyone. Instead, she hacked the back end. Not personally. She contacted an old friend from her journalism days. Kev, brilliant, paranoid, and anti-corporate to his core. When she explained the situation, he didn't even hesitate. Say less, he said. Give me 48 hours. Exactly 2 days later, she received a zipped folder via encrypted drive. Inside, footage files, labeled by date, location, and, shockingly, guest name. The family from Table 7 had been flagged. Their name had a digital tag. Protocol Red, Test Subjects. The file showed more than just Jesse's actions. It showed internal camera angles, HR correspondence, even real-time reactions from someone in a surveillance room. They'd been watching, setting it up, testing reactions. Kira dropped the drive on her desk. The family was used. Their experience, their mistreatment, was part of an internal project, a live test, and she was the follow-up act. Not a hero, not a fixer, a variable, a controlled explosion. Now, she had to make a decision. She could continue working inside, feeding them her findings, trying to shift things slowly. Or she could burn the whole damn thing down. Kira stared at the screen in silence. The words glared back at her like they were etched in fire. Protocol Red, Test Subjects. The family hadn't just been mistreated. They had been chosen. Their experience was manufactured, a corporate stress test to gauge public response, employee compliance, and damage control procedures. A live social experiment, executed in the most callous, calculated way imaginable. And she was Plan B. The cleanup crew. The smokescreen. Kira sat back, heart thundering. She ran her fingers through her hair, tugging at the roots. Her apartment felt too quiet, too clean, like a set, not a home. She reached for her phone. Her thumb hovered over Victor's contact. She didn't call. Not yet. Instead, she opened her personal files. She rewatched her interviews with staff members. The footage of Jesse, the subtle body language, the sudden defensiveness, it all made sense now. He knew what had happened, but he hadn't expected anyone to care. She opened a new project file. Title: Subject 0, The Cost of Control. She outlined every connection she had. Journalists, bloggers, activists, whistleblower groups. She made a list of possible publication routes, people who owed her favors, people who still believed in truth. But then, her burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A voice, calm, cold, female. You're digging too deep, Ms. Morgan. Silence. Who is this? Kira said, though she already knew. Let's just say, someone who was in the surveillance room that night. Monica, you were watching it unfold. You let it happen. Pause. We didn't let anything happen. We designed it to. This is about data, Kira. Behavior modeling. Response rates. Compliance thresholds. You wouldn't understand. I understand perfectly, Kira snapped. You used them. You used me. We gave you a chance, Monica said, to be part of something revolutionary. And now you're threatening to destroy it. Kira almost laughed. Revolutionary? You mean exploitative? A moment of stillness. Then the final blow. If you release what you have, that family will be in the spotlight again. National coverage. Constant harassment. Their children's names leaked. Faces on every screen. You'll be the reason their lives get shattered again. Kira's hand froze midair. You wouldn't do that, would you? Click. The line went dead. She sat frozen, the weight of the call pressing into her chest like lead. This was her choice. Expose the truth and risk destroying the very family she was trying to protect. Stay silent, and let the company continue its experiments. Let another family be next. She didn't sleep that night. She paced for hours, the same question echoing. What's more damaging, the lie or the fallout of the truth? She drafted 2 emails. The first, addressed to every major news outlet, whistleblower foundation, and public interest law firm. It contained the footage, documents, and detailed notes. A nuclear bomb of evidence. The second, addressed only to the family from Table 7. She stared at both drafts. If she sent the first, the world would know. There'd be justice. Maybe. But also pain. She opened the family's file one last time. Paused the video on the frame where the father reached for his wife's hand as they stood to leave. The way he shielded her. The kids clutching each other. The mother blinking away tears as she mouthed, "Let's just go." She could hear their silence. Feel it like glass against her throat. If she destroyed the company, she might destroy them too. But if she stayed silent, she'd never sleep again. That morning, she got a message from Victor. It was short. "Let's talk. No lawyers. Just us. 3 p.m. Conference room 7. She went. Not because she trusted him. Because she needed to look him in the eye. Victor was already there, sitting calmly at the long oak table. "I thought you might come," he said. "I know everything," she replied. He nodded slowly. "I figured you would." "No denials?" "What would be the point?" he said. "You're a journalist. And a good one. That's why I chose you." Her stomach turned. "You didn't choose me. You used me." He leaned forward. "Kira, you want justice. We want reform. The only way to change these systems is from inside. And sometimes, that means making hard choices." She stood. "No. That means you're a coward." He sighed. "You're angry now? But I'm offering you the chance to be at the center of change. Not on the fringe. Real power, Kira. Real change. You don't get that by burning the house down. You get it by owning a piece of it." She reached into her bag and pulled out a USB. This burns the house down." Victor blinked. "You wouldn't." "I already did," she lied. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Then I hope you're ready to live with what comes next." So was she. She left without another word. When she got back home, she opened both email drafts again. Then she picked up her phone. This time, she didn't call the media. She called the family. The mother answered. Her voice was cautious but kind. "Hello." Kira took a breath. "My name is Kira Morgan. I was there that night. I'm working on a story. But before I do anything, I wanted to ask what you want." There was a long silence. Then the woman asked, quietly, "Can we meet?" "Yes," Kira whispered. "Of course." Because in the end, the choice wasn't hers to make alone. It was theirs too. Kira sat at the edge of the public park bench, her breath puffing out in short, visible bursts under the gray sky. It was a cold afternoon, and the air had the sharp edge of an oncoming storm. Her hands clutched a manila envelope, thick with printed documents, photos, and a flash drive. The family arrived together. Same faces. Same quiet dignity. The father gave a polite nod. The mother held her daughter's hand while her son trailed just behind, hood pulled over his head. No words were exchanged at first, just a solemn recognition of shared truth. Kira stood up slowly. "Thank you for coming." The mother's voice was soft but firm. "You said you had something to show us." "I do." Kira handed the envelope over. "This is everything. Emails, footage, audio files. There's a recording of the meeting where they approved the protocol. You were a test. To them, you were never just customers." The father didn't open the envelope. His hand rested on it like a stone. "We already knew we were never just customers," he said. "But now we know why." "I'm sorry," Kira whispered. The mother's eyes shimmered, but her voice didn't crack. "You want to go public?" "Yes, but not without your permission." There was silence again. The boy suddenly spoke. "Will it make them stop?" Kira met his gaze. "It might. Or it might make them hide it better. But it will force people to look. It will hurt them. Publicly. Legally." The boy looked to his parents. "I don't want them to do it to someone else," he said. The mother nodded once. "Then we'll stand with you." Just as the first raindrops fell, Kira pressed send. To every journalist she'd ever worked with. Every editor she trusted. To whistleblower accounts. Online forums. Civil rights organizations. To trusted friends with loud voices. The story broke in 17 minutes. By the time Kira returned home, it was already trending on social media. Hashtags were multiplying by the second. Hashtag Table 7. Hashtag Controlled Cruelty. Hashtag Red Protocol. Within an hour, The CEO released a vague, templated statement. By the third hour, internal documents had been leaked by anonymous employees backing Kira's claims. And by the end of the day, the name of the corporation, Northbridge Hospitality Group, was being torn to pieces in headlines across every platform. But that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning of the fight. Kira's apartment looked like a war room. Stacks of binders. Laptops open with spreadsheets. Dozens of tabs on her browser. Emails flooding in from journalists, lawyers, activists, angry employees, scared executives. Her phone buzzed. Again. She answered. Kira. Victor's voice was like static, low, cold, distorted by tension. You could have been part of this. You could have had everything. She didn't waste a breath. So could that family. Instead, they got humiliated, gaslit, and shoved into an experiment. He chuckled bitterly. You have no idea what you've unleashed. Actually, she said, I think I do. I gave you a warning. No, Kira snapped. You gave me a choice. And I chose to burn the house down. He hung up. She sat in the quiet hum of her apartment, heart pounding, adrenaline humming through her veins. Then came the knock. Not loud, just sharp, intentional. She looked through the peephole. A man in a charcoal coat. No expression, no ID badge, just eyes that didn't blink. She didn't open the door. Instead, she activated her camera, made sure it was recording, and spoke loudly through the door. You're being recorded. Leave now or I call the press. The man didn't move at first. Then he turned, walked away, vanished down the hallway. That night, her story went viral globally. News anchors dissected every clip. Online sleuths uncovered further abuse in different branches. Former employees came forward. Lawsuits began to stack. The pressure cooker burst. And then Northbridge retaliated. 4 days after the story broke, Kira's inbox filled with death threats, online harassment, photos of her family. Her apartment location leaked online. Her bank account was flagged, frozen. Her email login blocked. Her laptop began glitching. Files went missing. Her power flickered. Then, one night, her phone buzzed with a notification. Your Uber is arriving. She hadn't ordered a ride. Then another. Welcome to the Northbridge employee portal. Her screen was filled with live security camera feeds of her building, of nearby streets, even of herself. Watching. Waiting. She slammed the laptop shut. Victor wasn't done. This wasn't just about retaliation. It was about erasing her, discrediting her, silencing her before the legal gears could fully lock into place. She called her contact at the Journal Integrity Network. We need to go on air. Live. Unedited. If they take me out, I want the world to know who did it. The anchor agreed. The next morning, she went to the studio. No makeup. No teleprompter. Just the truth. She looked into the camera. Her voice was hoarse, but steady. I am not a hero. I didn't set out to take down a giant. But when I saw what they did, what they were still doing, I had to speak. And now they want me gone. The host leaned in. Who is they, Kira? She stared into the lens. Northbridge. And anyone who helps them. The clip hit 20 million views in a day. Kira was summoned to Northbridge headquarters for an off-the-record conversation. Against every instinct, she went. With 2 lawyers, 3 hidden cameras, and livestream backup. She walked through the same gleaming lobby. Same marble floors. Same haunting emptiness. This time, there were no polite smiles. Only closed doors and glances that lingered too long. Victor waited in conference room 7. Same room. He stood. Let's not drag this out. Good, Kira said. Then let's talk about your resignation. He smirked. You think you've won. I don't care about winning, she said. I care about the families you'll never hurt again. He leaned in. You've created a war, Kira. Wars don't end cleanly. No, she replied. But they end. She placed a folder on the table. Inside, new whistleblower statements, audio of their last call, and subpoena requests in motion from the Department of Justice. This is the part where you cooperate, she said. Where you watch your empire fall. Brick by brick. He opened the folder. For the first time, he looked scared. She stood. You made this personal. You could have fixed it. You could have stopped it. She walked to the door. Paused. Turned. And for what it's worth, I hope you rot. Victor was gone. Resigned. Disgraced. Under federal investigation. Monica vanished. Rumors swirled she'd fled the country. Northbridge stocks plummeted. The family from Table 7 filed a civil lawsuit, backed by dozens of others who had come forward. Their identities remained protected, thanks to Kira's insistence. And Kira? She stayed visible. She kept reporting. She started a podcast, The Hidden Table, dedicated to stories like theirs. One episode at a time, she gave voice to those who were silenced. And every time someone asked her if it was worth it, she thought of that night, of the boy who said, "Will it make them stop?" And she answered, yes, because now they had to listen. Kira sat by the window, staring out into the gray morning. The city was still recovering from the storm that had passed through last night, the sun barely peeking through the clouds. It was quiet, almost too quiet. The chaos that had defined the past few weeks had finally settled into a lull, but the tension still lingered, like a low hum beneath the surface. Her phone buzzed. She didn't have to look to know it was from Victor. The messages had been coming in steadily since his resignation. One last attempt at control, or maybe just an attempt to make her doubt herself. He was trying to convince her that she hadn't won, that there was still so much more to lose. She ignored the message, setting her phone down on the table. Instead, she picked up a letter, one she had been putting off reading. It was from the family she had fought to protect, the family that had been caught in the storm of corporate greed, the ones who had been the real victims in all of this. She had met with them several times since everything went public. They were healing, but it was slow. The scars were deep. More than just the humiliation, the invasion of their privacy, the long road of legal battles they would have to walk. But they had made their voices heard. They had taken back their power, and now they were moving forward. The letter wasn't long, but it was enough. Dear Kira, we're not sure how to thank you for everything you've done. We came here with nothing but fear and uncertainty, and now we can look ahead with hope. It's strange, really, to think that we owe so much to you, a person we've never truly met. But what you've given us, it's more than just a voice. You've given us our dignity back. We don't know what the future holds, but we do know this. Because of you, we are stronger. We'll keep fighting, and we'll make sure no one ever has to go through what we did. We owe you that much. Thank you, from the bottom of our hearts. Sincerely, the Williams family. Kira folded the letter carefully, feeling something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in weeks. A small, soft wave of relief. It wasn't a victory she had expected, but it was the one she had needed. The family was okay. They were moving forward. For the first time in a long while, Kira allowed herself to take a deep breath. Her phone buzzed again. It was a news alert this time. The headline caught her off guard. Northbridge scandal. Federal investigation expands as whistleblowers come forward. Kira had known the investigation was ongoing, but seeing it in black and white was different. This wasn't just about a corporate scandal anymore. It was about exposing a systemic culture of corruption, manipulation, and abuse that ran deeper than she had ever imagined. The government was involved now, and for the first time, there was real hope that the company would face consequences. But it wasn't just about Northbridge. Kira had started something bigger. She'd sparked a movement. More stories were flooding in. More families, more employees, more survivors were coming forward, each with their own version of what happened behind closed doors. The ripple effect had become a wave. She walked over to her desk and pulled out a notebook. The pages were filled with notes, sketches, and ideas for the future. She had never been one to sit idle, and the work wasn't over. Not by a long shot. She knew the fight wasn't over, but she also knew this. The system had been shaken. The cracks had been exposed, and people were paying attention now. The first steps had been taken, but there was still so much more to do. She sat down at her desk and picked up her phone once more. She had a few messages from her editor asking if she was ready to continue her reporting on the case. She typed a quick response. Yes. Let's keep going. As she hit send, a knock at the door interrupted her. It was brief but firm. 2 knocks, a pause, then another 2. Kira got up and opened it. Standing on the other side was the Williams family. They had come by to thank her in person. There were no grand speeches, no overflowing gratitude. Just their presence, standing there as a reminder that this wasn't about her, but about them, their lives, their dignity, their fight. They handed her a small envelope, one that was surprisingly light. Open it, the father said. Kira tore the envelope open, revealing a simple handwritten note. We're with you always. The Williams family. She smiled, her throat tightening. There was nothing more powerful than knowing she had made a difference. Knowing that, despite everything, she had chosen to do the right thing. Her phone buzzed again, but this time it was a different message. It was from one of the activists she had worked with. The government just issued a subpoena for the full Northbridge archive. Wherein, Kira's heart raced, but she didn't feel the familiar rush of fear anymore. Instead, she felt something else, anticipation. She looked at the Williams family, then back at the future she was helping to build. They hadn't just survived, they had changed the narrative. And so had she. This was just the beginning. Her journey had started with a single choice, to take a stand. But the resolution had been something more. It wasn't just about exposing one company's wrongs. It was about exposing a system that had been built on secrecy, on exploitation. And in the process, she had learned something she would carry with her always. That one voice, one choice, could change everything. The work wasn't done yet. The fight was still ahead, but she was no longer fighting alone. She had allies. She had purpose. And for the first time in months, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be.